The air hung heavy with the scent of incense and fear, thick like the Nile mud underfoot. You hear at first the low, anguished bellow echoing through the temple corridors, a sound that shakes the stone walls and pierces the soul. Then the clash of metal, a dagger drawn in rage. Sight comes last, the massive black bull, its white markings gleaming under torchlight, staggering as blood pools on the sacred floor. The priests freeze, their linen robes stained with horror. But the invader, eyes wild with mockery, laughs. "Is this your god?" he snarls, wiping the blade. Around him, the crowd scatters, screams rising like a storm. In that moment, the heart of Egypt cracks. But this was only the beginning. What followed would scar the land forever, a wave of violation that reached into the holiest sanctums, and the worst was yet to come. What you're about to hear involves acts of desecration and cruelty against sacred figures, including women dedicated to the gods. These stories come from ancient chronicles. Though debated by scholars today, we focus on the clash of empires, not the graphic details. If it's too much, pause and return later. For those continuing, remember, this isn't just pain, it's the machinery of conquest at work. This wasn't random madness. This was empire's cold calculation, dressed in fury. Cambyses, son of the great Cyrus, had crossed the sands to claim Egypt not as a prize, but as a warning. The year was around 525 before the Common Era, when the Persian Empire stretched like a shadow over the known world. Egypt, with its pharaohs and pyramids, stood as the last great holdout, a land of gods and rituals that had endured for millennia. But tensions simmered, trade disputes, border skirmishes, and a pharaoh's slight that ignited war. Cambyses saw opportunity in chaos, a chance to weld Egypt to his father's legacy. Yet what began as military triumph spiraled into something darker, a systematic assault on the soul of a nation. Historians debate the extremes. Some call it propaganda from resentful priests, but the echoes remain. A king who targeted the sacred to break the spirit. Why does it matter now? Because it shows how power devours the divine, a lesson that resonates through time. But to understand the horror, we must go back to where the machine was built. The Persian Empire wasn't born from nothing. It rose from the highlands of what we now call Iran, forged by Cyrus in a blaze of conquests that united tribes and toppled kings. By the time his son Cambyses took the throne, the realm spanned from the Mediterranean to the Indus, a vast network of roads, spies, and satraps keeping order. Taxes flowed like rivers, armies marched on command. But Egypt loomed as the ultimate test, a kingdom rich in grain, gold, and gods, ruled by Psamtik III, a young pharaoh clinging to his father's shadow. The tension had brewed for years. Cyrus had eyed the Nile, planning invasion, but death came first. Cambyses inherited the ambition, along with whispers of doubt: was he worthy? To prove it, he assembled a force unlike any before. Persian horsemen, Greek mercenaries, even Arab guides who knew the desert paths. The system was efficient, almost mechanical. Spies mapped Egyptian defenses, bribes turned allies, and propaganda painted Cambyses as liberator. But beneath the strategy lurked personal scars. As a boy, Cambyses watched his father's endless wars, learning that mercy was weakness. One formative moment stood out: the betrayal by a close advisor, twisting his trust into paranoia. Another, the loss of his mother in suspicious circumstances, fueling rumors of family intrigue. These weren't excuses, they were gears in the machine, turning ambition into obsession. By the time he reached Egypt's border, Cambyses wasn't just conquering land, he was erasing resistance at its root. And then, the invasion struck. Spring winds carried dust across the Sinai as the Persian army advanced, 50,000 strong or more, their shields glinting under the sun. Psamtik rallied his forces at Pelusium, the gateway fortress, but clever tactics turned the tide. Legends say Cambyses used cats sacred to the Egyptians as shields, paralyzing the defenders who feared divine wrath. Whether true or tale, the city fell swiftly. Memphis, the ancient capital, followed after a siege that starved the streets. Psamtik surrendered, his crown shattered. But victory wasn't enough. Cambyses needed submission. He targeted the elite first, those who embodied Egypt's pride. In a calculated display, he paraded Psamtik's family through the dust-choked avenues. The pharaoh's son, a youth of promise, led a procession of 2,000 noble Egyptians, ropes binding their necks like cattle. For each Persian envoy slain in an earlier skirmish, 10 lives paid the price. The boy's eyes met his father's one last time before the blades fell. Blood soaked the sand, a message etched in red: defiance dies here. Yet the real wound came next. Psamtik's daughter, a maiden of royal blood, raised in palace seclusion, was stripped of her finery and clad in rags. With her, dozens of other young women from leading families, their innocence a symbol of Egypt's future. They were forced to fetch water like slaves, jugs heavy on their shoulders, under the gaze of jeering soldiers. Fathers wept from the sidelines, their cries a chorus of broken power. This wasn't mere humiliation. It was the system's blade, cutting at the heart of society. By degrading the elite's daughters, Cambyses signaled that no one was untouchable. Historians estimate hundreds affected in this wave, though ancient whispers inflate the numbers in tales of outrage. But that wasn't the worst part. As the Persians settled in, eyes turned to the temples, the true keepers of Egypt's soul. The temples weren't just buildings. They were the empire's nerve center. Priests controlled knowledge, rituals binding pharaoh to gods. In Memphis, the cult of Ptah reigned, but none matched the reverence for Apis, the bull embodying divine fertility. Black as night with white markings, he lived in luxury, fed honey cakes and milk, his every move an omen. When Cambyses entered the city, the air buzzed with festival energy. A new Apis had appeared, crowds dancing in joy, a rare bright spot amid defeat. Cambyses saw mockery. Fresh from failed expeditions, one army lost to desert sands, another repelled in Nubia, his temper flared. He summoned the priests, demanding explanation. Their calm replies fueled his suspicion. "Bring me this god," he commanded. The bull was led forth, majestic and serene. In a flash, Cambyses drew his dagger, aiming for the belly but striking the thigh. The beast bellowed, collapsing as blood flowed. Flesh and blood, like any beast. He roared, laughing amid the gasps. The priests rushed forward, only to be seized and scourged, their backs lashed until skin peeled. Chaos erupted. Festival goers scattered, but Persian soldiers pursued, cutting down any who celebrated. Bodies piled in the streets, the sacred precinct defiled. The bull lingered in agony for days before dying, buried in secret to hide the shame. This act wasn't impulse. It was strategic erasure, targeting the symbol that unified Egyptians. By slaying Apis, Cambyses aimed to shatter faith in the old order, paving way for Persian rule. But the ripple spread wider, into the sanctums where priestesses served. Shift to a quieter corner of the temple complex, where the air cooled with evening shadows. Here, away from the bull's enclosure, lived the devoted women virgins sworn to the gods, their lives a rhythm of prayers and offerings. They tended altars, wove sacred linens, their purity a bridge to the divine. One such figure, let's call her Mariette, embodied their world. Young, with eyes like the Nile at dawn, she had entered service as a child, leaving family for holy duty. Her days passed in serenity, until the Persians came. As news of the bull's wounding spread, fear gripped the priestesses. Whispers told of soldiers storming lesser shrines, dragging women into the light. Cambyses, in his fury, ordered purges. Any link to the false gods faced judgment. Mariette hid with her sisters, hearts pounding as boots echoed closer. The system kicked in. Informants pointed out the hidden, incentives rewarded betrayal. What followed remains shrouded in ancient accounts, debated fiercely. Some chronicles speak of thousands violated, their sanctity shattered to break the religious hold. Estimates vary from hundreds to tales of 12,000 across Egypt's temples, but the intent was clear: dismantle the network-sustaining opposition. Mariette resisted, clutching a sacred amulet as guards burst in. "The king demands tribute," one barked, eyes cold. She and others were herded out, their veils torn, forced into labor, or worse. The violation wasn't just physical, it stripped their divine role, turning symbols of purity into emblems of defeat. This escalation showed the machine's evolution from military win to cultural domination, a breather amid the storm. One priestess, escaping through hidden passages, glimpsed the moonlit Nile, a reminder of enduring cycles. But for most, the night brought no mercy. And yet, this overreach planted seeds of rebellion. The climax built in Thebes, far upriver, where temples sprawled like cities. Cambyses marched south, his army weary but driven. Here, the cult of Amun held sway, priests wielding influence like kings. Enraged by reports of defiance, Cambyses targeted their core. Flames licked ancient walls as shrines burned, though evidence suggests not all. Some spared for pragmatism, but the human toll mounted. In the heart of it, Merit, now a symbol of resistance, faced the king. Dragged before him, she stood defiant, her voice steady. The gods see all. Cambyses, thigh wounded in a hunting mishap, mirroring the bull's injury, saw omen in her words. Superstition cracked his armor. He ordered mass reprisals. Priestesses from surrounding temples rounded up, their numbers swelling in the chaos. Ancient sources hint at horrors violations meant to profane the sacred, breaking the link between people and gods. The exact count? Disputed, but whispers of 12,000 echo in later tales, perhaps exaggerated to fuel hatred. Slow the moment. Torchlight flickers on terrified faces, the Nile's murmur drowned by cries. Cambyses hesitated, dagger in hand, but the command fell. This was the breaking point. The system, designed for control, overreached into sacrilege. Resistance flared, priests hid relics, common folk whispered curses. Cambyses' wound festered, mirroring the bull's, a poetic justice in Egyptian eyes. As infection spread, his paranoia deepened, turning inward. He slew aides, even kin, the machine consuming itself. Word reached Persia. Rebellion brewed at home, a false brother claiming the throne. Cambyses mounted to depart, but fate struck, his sword pierced his thigh in the same spot as the bull's wound. Agony seized him, the irony clear even to his guards. He lingered days, confessing crimes before death claimed him in Syria. The empire teetered, but Darius rose to stabilize it. In Egypt, satraps imposed order, but scars lingered. Temples rebuilt slowly, rituals resumed, yet trust in foreign rule eroded. Communities scattered, some priestesses fleeing to Nubia, carrying stories that fueled future uprisings. Power shifted. Egypt became a Persian province, its wealth funding wars. But the cultural clash sowed seeds for later revolts. One ironic twist, the documents meant to glorify Cambyses instead preserved Egyptian grievances, turning conqueror into villain. Centuries passed, the sands burying truths. Then, in the 19th century, excavators unearthed clues. At Saqqara, near Memphis, a stela emerged from the Serapeum, the bull's tomb. It depicted Cambyses kneeling before Apis, honoring the god with rituals. Dated to his 6th year, it showed the bull buried with pomp, not slain in rage. French archaeologist Auguste Mariette led the find in the 1,850 seconds, his team navigating catacombs filled with massive sarcophagi. This proved Herodotus's tale suspect, likely priestly propaganda against Persian overlords. Further digs revealed no widespread temple burns. Instead, inscriptions of Cambyses adopting pharaonic titles, respecting customs. Modern labs analyzed bones, confirming peaceful burials. Scholars like Olaf Kaper in recent decades pieced together lost armies and titles, reframing Cambyses as pragmatic ruler, not madman. Yet, the virgin's fate? Shadowier? No direct artifacts, but temple records hint at disruptions. Women displaced. Estimates of affected range widely, some sources inflating for impact. This discovery humanizes the past bones and stones speaking against ancient biases. Why does it matter? It teaches that history is layered, victors and victims shaping narratives. In our world of clashing cultures, it warns against erasing the sacred for power. The system endures in new forms, ideological wars, cultural erasures, but resistance persists, in memory and stone. Echo the start. The bull's bellow fades, but Egypt endures. Those sacred women, meant to vanish, live in tales passed down. Their purity wasn't broken. It became a flame against tyranny. And now, they're here with you, because you listened. If this moved you, share in the comments. What shocks you most about Empire's reach? Subscribe for more hidden histories. In the end, the gods outlast the kings.